Justice, baby.
And we're back.
We're back.
Welcome to Speaking Spatter. I'm Amber.
I'm Josh.
And we're excited to be here again. It's been a little bit. My July's been absolutely insane.
Okay.
So I appreciate it being so late in July of us recording.
Yeah, because it was...
It's been like a month.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been... Yeah, I think it was towards the end of June.
Yeah, I think our goal right now is just to do like one recording a month, and then we'll pick up a little bit more once my schedule slows down, because my schedule is absolutely insane right now.
Okay. Yeah. It's summer, busy time.
Yeah.
I like that you run around when it's 115 degrees outside. That's you're like, now's the time to run around.
Now's the time to run around. It's crazy.
Someone's like, oh, it's like 64. Stay home.
Stay home.
That's cozy weather, though, so that makes sense.
You're going to pull me out from underneath my blanket?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Good luck. Okay, so as always, we have another true crime case. And like I said, this one I don't know anything about it.
Yep.
I don't know what we're doing.
I didn't even tell you what we were doing.
No, didn't tell me what we were doing. But I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'll need a Survivor story, maybe?
No.
Oh, you know what? I'll just let you get into it. So let's get it going.
So it's a weird possible murder mystery.
Okay.
Death.
Possible death. Okay.
So I first heard about this case, I don't know, maybe like definitely like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it always just kind of like stuck in my mind, but then it was reopened in like 2020, and so it like caught my interest again and closed back in 2022, but I'll get all into that.
Got it.
So it's the death of Kendrick Johnson.
The death.
The death.
The death of him. Okay.
And I say death because we don't know if he was murdered, and we don't know if it was foul play, or we just don't know.
Oh, gotcha. But we know that he is deceased.
He is passed
not like
away.
assumed or anything like that. He is deceased. Okay.
No, he's gone.
No, never heard of it.
So my sources I used today was a podcast called Crime Junkie,
mm-hmm.
Wikipedia as always, and then there is a group called the Anonymous Group. One of their videos I watched.
Okay.
I'll kind of get into it. So Kendrick Johnson was born on October 10th, 1995. Great year to be born. And passed away January 10th of 2013.
Okay.
So he would have been 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was a senior in high school.
Real young.
Real young. So he actually passed away at his high school. So his high school had two gyms. They had like a big gym and a small gym, and they referred to them as like...
Wait. Is this the wrestling mat?
Yeah.
Okay, I know a little bit about
yeah.
this.
Okay.
I'm excited now. Excited.
Yeah. No,
yeah, we'll go into detail.
Yeah.
Sorry, not excited about, obviously it's a sad subject.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this I've heard.
I'm glad you know a little bit.
I've heard
then.
a little bit about it. Yeah.
So the gym had two schools. The school had two gyms.
Mm-hmm.
One was called the old gym, and one was called the new gym. Not big and little. Sorry. So it was January 10th was the third day back from their winter break. And during the winter break, so I'm kind of like setting the scene. So there are these big like wrestling or maybe like cheer mats. I'm not really sure. And like a couple reports that I read said one thing, and a couple reports that I read said another thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these big, basically like wrestling mats that are rolled up, and over winter break, they were stored in the same place as like where Kendrick was found, like in the corner of the gym. And half of the mats were rolled up and standing up vertical, and half of them were laying down. But when the kids got back to school and they unrolled them and rolled them back up and, put them away, the majority of them were standing up straight except for one. So on January 10th, Kendrick's mom is waiting for him to come home. She knew that he was going to go to a basketball game after school, but it was kind of later than she was expecting. Like, he still wasn't home, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, still wasn't home. She drove by the school.
Just a little odd.
Yeah, especially if you're like a teenager and you, like, it seemed like he had a good relationship with his parents. So
mm-hmm.
if he was a little late, it's fine. But like hours and hours late, it's like out of character for
mm-hmm.
him. So she went to the school around like 10 o'clock to see like maybe the game was still going on, but the school was like closed down, shut, locked up, dark. So she went back home and waited for him. And at midnight, she finally went over to the police to file a missing persons report. And the police were just like, oh, he's probably just like a runaway. He'll come back, you know. Troubled teens, you hear it every day. So the next morning on the 11th, there was still no sight of him. So she went into the school. Come to find out, he didn't show up to his 3rd or 4th period class the day prior. And she was in there trying to talk to the staff of like, well, where did he go? And the staff in the office gets a phone call stating that they found his body in the old gym, or in the old gym. That's fucking heartbreaking, like,
yeah,
insane. So the way they found him is there were some kids in the old gym getting ready to like either go to class or get ready to participate in gym class, and they saw something sticking out of the top of one of the mats. So they went over there to kind of get a look, and they climbed up bleachers. But when I say bleachers, they're like one bench, another bench. Like they're not like the big like pull out bleachers from the wall. It was just like they were a bench.
The stationary ones.
Yeah. Like little ones, just 2 levels, nothing more than that.
Right.
So they climbed up on the top and saw that there were like feet. There were socks kind of like sticking out at the top and shoes kind of right by the feet. And they were like, what the heck? So they were like, hey, like, do you need help? Like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? There was no response. So they started to get worried. They ran and got a faculty member to help pull down the mats because the mats are big and heavy.
Yeah, they're big. The wrestling mats are, they're pretty hefty.
Pretty hefty. And then that's when they found Kendrick passed away. So I want to keep in mind that 2 of the kids that found Kendrick were 2 of the superintendent's daughters.
Okay.
So when the faculty finds him, the police are called. And obviously because they could like smell decomposition, so they call the police right away. So the police and the Georgia Bureau of Investigations show up to the scene, and they both waited a few hours before the coroner is called, which is against Georgia law. So coroner's called, paramedics are called, and when the paramedics arrived, they said this should be a crime scene because they noted that there was bruising on Kendrick, on his neck and body, and then the local police were like, not about it, and didn't secure the scene. So before Kendrick's body could even be like put in the corner to be like taken away, coroner's van to be taken away, the sheriff was already with news media making a statement about his death. So
before we even know what happened.
Before we even know what happened.
Sorry, and you mentioned it. How long has this been? This is a day after he's missing?
Yeah, so he went missing on the 10th, and this was the 11th.
Gotcha.
The morning of the 11th.
The morning of the 11th, and he was hadn't been seen since probably like afternoon of the 10th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he went missing for his 3rd and 4th period.
Okay.
So like when I went to high school, we had 8 classes, but we went to 4 one day and 4 the next day, and we switched off. So that's what it sounds like.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So like the 10th was the 2nd day back. So it sounded like he didn't have gym class until this like 2nd block of classes.
Right.
So he wouldn't have had to go get his shoes. Well, I'll get there. I'll get there.
You'll get it. It's just been a day. Sorry, I didn't know if we had established
No, it's okay. So, like less than 24 hours basically.
Okay.
So the sheriff starts to make an announcement about what happened with the media, and he says, on January 10th, Kendrick had some kind of fitness class for his next period. He went to the old gym to get a pair of sneakers that he and another kid shared for gym class. Since the school made them pay for lockers, they hid the shoes in rolled up mats. After winter break, the mats that Kendrick stored his shoes in were before winter break, they were laying down, but after winter break, they were standing up.
Okay.
Making specifically the one that he stored his shoes in. And so that made the shoes like drop to the bottom of the mat. They said that Kendrick climbed into the mat, climbed on top of the mats until he saw which one his shoes were in. And once he found his shoes, they said that he crawled down the mat to try to get them, but got stuck upside down and died there. They say that he died of positional asphyxiation. So positional asphyxiation has only been an official cause of death since 1992. And there have only been 37 known cases
Did you know I know one?
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, there was a kid. Sorry, just
No,
real quick.
tangent, go.
There was another a kid that went cave exploring in like an open cave, and it was known as like an easy exploration.
Sure.
And there's no signs or anything. Obviously, he went down the wrong tunnel system, and one of the shafts was vertical like that, and he tried to climb it, and he got stuck. And they tried to rescue him for hours and hours and hours, and he ended up dying that way, being upside down like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they said it was like a tragic case of him dying upside down. And like on the podcast I listened to, the girl said she did some research on it and found that like the majority of positional asphyxiation cases are people who died upside down like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like super hard to make that the cause of death.
Right.
Just because it's so rare.
To get stuck like that, yeah.
How often do you get stuck upside down and can't
move?
Push yourself out.
Right, can't move,
It's so rare. So when the family heard the news about how he died upside down in the gym mat, things didn't really sit well with them. At the time that Kendrick went into the mat, there should have been, and there were, kids playing basketball in the gym at the time.
Oh.
And it wasn't a big gym. It was a small gym. I have a picture of the gym. We like to provide the pictures for our
for the viewers.
For our viewers, thank you. But these are just so graphic that I don't want to put them out there. They're out there for some people who want to go and look at them.
Okay.
So,
of him, like
of the
gotcha.
crime scene of
Do we
the
have
gym.
a picture of like just the gym itself?
Yeah, so I'll show you that right now.
Okay.
But for anybody who's listening, you can literally Google him, Kendrick Johnson crime scene photos, and they'll come up. The family has released them, but I don't want to put them on here and like shell shock somebody.
Right.
So this was the gym. So it's literally one court.
Okay. Yeah. So not too big.
Right. And those are the mats.
The mats in the corner there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at first, the community behind Kendrick's family was just kind of like supportive, like, we're so sorry for your loss. Mm-hmm. But then as evidence and other things started to come out about his death, the community really rallied behind them, and they were like, no, like, justice needs to be served. Like, somebody killed this boy. We need to figure this out. Like, something is wrong. Like, something's not adding up.
And it seems like the police are ready to just say accident, closed case, like good to go. So
there was one picture that was released when the public was really like, no, we need to fucking like do something about this. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to show it to you. Again, it's super graphic.
Okay.
If you don't want to see it, you can tell me too.
No, we can look at it.
And then
and he said you can just Google search if somebody wants to view it, right? You can Google search and find it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So this picture was released. It's a side-by-side picture of Kendrick when he was alive. And then this is a picture of Kendrick after his first autopsy.
Got it.
So we need to keep that in mind. So his face is a little more like scrunchy or like a little more dysmorphed because when you do an autopsy, to get to the brain, you have to split the head open.
Oh, gotcha.
So they peel back the face, cut the head open, get the brain, do whatever they need to do and put it back. Okay. So it's a little more scrunchy than what it would be.
Okay.
But you can clearly see that like his lips are swollen, his eyes
like
are
bloated.
Like almost like as if he got like punched in the face or like if you took a human and made him like a puffer fish. Like
Right. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So once the community saw this photo, they were like, no, like something's wrong. So then this photo was also released and it's, oh, okay, cool. Let's not zoom in.
Okay.
It is the photo of him directly after being, like from the crime scene.
Okay.
So again, you can see like eyes are kind of swollen, lips are kind of swollen.
Yeah.
He
looks like his eyes are like kind of maybe swollen shut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His head is clearly obviously darker than like the rest of his body, but that's because all the blood was like pouring
going into
his head. Because he was upside down. So, that's when the community really was like, no, we need to figure this out. So some of the other evidence that once that side-by-side photo came out, that the community looked at as like weird and not correct, starting with Kendrick's shoulders. Kendrick's shoulders were 19 inches wide, which is 5 inches wider than the opening of the mat.
Oh, so he shouldn't have been able to fit in there.
Right. So the public and the family believes he was rolled up inside the mat. But when he was found, Kendrick had one arm above his head and one arm kind of like tucked in, which like if you do that, you go like a little bit. You shrink a little.
Shrink a little bit. Okay.
So all of this like evidence that I'm going to talk about, you can kind of explain both sides of it.
Gotcha.
And that's the weird part. And that's why I truly don't know if he was murdered or not. And I truly like I just don't know. And
right.
I don't want to say one way and I don't want to say the other way because I just don't know.
Yeah.
Normally I can have an opinion.
Right. Normally you're like, like a murder trial and you're like, they couldn't prove it, but we know that it happened.
But all of this can be
debunked
or like talked from one end and made sense on one end and on the other end. So it hurts my brain.
Yeah, you're right. Because even hearing that, it would make sense that he's reaching down for the shoe and trying to
like he's
move his way in,
crawling down and like trying to make himself a little bit smaller. So this was him in the mat. Sorry, I forgot to show you this.
Oh, that's right. Okay, he was stuck in there. Okay.
And then to try to help like prove that he was rolled up in the mat, Kendrick's dad got next on his hands and knees down next to one of the mats and like showed like he can't even fit in it. And he was about the same size as Kendrick.
Okay.
So he was like, I can't even fit in here. So like, how did he get in there? How did he get in here? Like even if his shoulders are 19 inches, can you really shrink 5 inches?
Right. Yeah, it's a lot.
And go down. It's,
I
don't know. It's weird. So then the next piece of evidence were the shoes found on the top of the mat. So this is a little bit more zoomed in. So see how the shoes are like kind of behind him?
Are those the shoes he was reaching for?
No, those were the shoes he was wearing that day.
Oh, so how did they get off of him? And knocked in?
And like shoved down. They look like shoved down. They don't look placed there.
Right, or like they fell in with him.
So the shoes at the top of the mat are also another thing that people keep coming back to because they're like kind of tucked in behind his legs, like almost to his knees. And I heard and I read one thing that was like, well, like maybe he kicked him off because he felt that he was getting stuck. So maybe he like kicked him off and then that they fell behind him because okay,
it's a possibility.
Sure.
Yeah. I said, or maybe if you're placing them on the edge of that mat, and you know you're getting stuck, even if you're rocking back and forth, they could have fallen in.
He could have taken off his shoes, put them on the edge of the mat, reached in, fell farther in, and then his, like you're saying, like the mat wobbled and he fell in too.
Yeah, if he's struggling to get out or something.
But they also looked kind of shoved there.
Yeah.
So another weird thing is the pool of blood at the bottom of the mat, because when you're hanging upside down, like blood will seep out of your like nose and your mouth and your eyes, and just from like the pressure of being upside down for so long. The shoes he was reaching for are on top of the pool of blood. So there's no blood on the shoes he was reaching for.
Oh, got it.
I have a picture. I'll show you.
Oh, so it's just the blood. Oh, and it's on top of the. Okay.
So that's weird, because why would there be no blood on the shoes if he was bleeding onto the shoes? So.
And it's a tight space, so it's not like the blood had. It seems pretty hard to believe that it's coincidental that blood just got on the floor and not on the shoe.
This is the one that I'm like, what the fuck? But if maybe he had them and got stuck trying to go back up and then held onto them, and then as his body died,
gravity took him down. Yeah,
let go of the shoes, and the shoes were on the ground after he stopped bleeding.
Yeah, possibility, right?
But it still seems weird to me. I feel like he would still be bleeding.
Yeah,
but
you would
maybe
think,
not.
Yeah,
Maybe,
you don't.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't know.
So, so that the shoes. Then there was other blood in the gym. There was blood on the wall of the gym, and then there was blood in the girls' bathroom. The police confirmed that it wasn't Kendrick's blood, but they didn't proceed to test whose blood it was.
Interesting.
So they just like confirmed it wasn't his, and they're like, okay, cool, whatever, bye.
Not his, we're good to go.
I don't know. I feel like if you walk onto a high school campus, it's not uncommon for like blood to be in the gym wall. Yeah. Especially if they're playing basketball. Like teenagers are weird. Teenagers get rough. And like this, and then blood in a girl's bathroom, like that could also be easily explained away with cycles and whatnot. So,
but you would think it being a crime, you would at least test it, something, yeah.
With like just everything being just a little bit weird, you would think that they would take samples to test. So they took samples to test, but they didn't take enough samples to continue to test.
Got it.
And there really wasn't much testing done. Other things in the gym were found, like a sweatshirt that didn't belong to Kendrick, but they didn't confirm who it belonged to. And then there were and then the shoes. So the shoes in the mat with him and then the shoes on the ground weren't collected as evidence. They were just given back to the family.
They just gave him back.
They just gave him back because they ruled his death as
a suicide, an accidental death.
Yeah, an accidental death so quick.
Gosh.
So then lastly, the last like little piece of evidence is there's cameras at the school. There's video footage all over the school. However, the video footage in the area of the gym where the mats was out of focus, so nothing could be seen. So you couldn't see like the kids in the gym playing basketball. You couldn't see him climbing in. You couldn't see him not getting out. And then the cameras were also motion sensitive, so they weren't recording all the time. So sometimes somebody would like walk in the frame and be doing something, and then they would start to record. So it was like the kid just appeared out of nowhere, or the teacher or the faculty member appeared out of nowhere. And the timestamps of the footage were just a little bit off, which...
Off meaning like the time on the camera didn't match the actual time? Okay, got it.
So then the family ended up suing the school to get the footage. The school couldn't just hand over the footage because there's minors in the video.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's why they had to. And it actually wasn't the family. It was somebody from the court who had to get like a court order to get the footage. And then the footage was sent to CNN, like with the family's permission.
Got it.
And CNN, two people at CNN went over the tapes and they figured out that the timestamps were super off because they didn't go to the same server. They all went to different servers and they were all different cameras.
Oh, they weren't all synced up on one network. Okay.
And then they figured out that there was about an hour of missing footage. So when the footage was requested, it wasn't the same day. It was a couple days later. So the IT guys at the school had a couple days to pull it, had a couple days to pull down like what specifically they wanted to give the family and like everybody. So they didn't give them much. They only gave them what they thought was necessary from that day.
Interesting.
It is interesting. So the case at that time was closed as accidental death, positional asphyxiation. But then an attorney general of Georgia reopened the case. And a part of the reopening, they got a second autopsy done. So when the second autopsy was done, the ME, when he started, the medical examiner, when he started, he found that Kendrick didn't have his organs with him and he was just full of newspaper. Which...
is he a donor or something?
No. When you have cases like this, you usually keep the organs with the body, especially if it's like kind of weird or there was like questioning about his death or the death to begin with. Medical examiners will keep the organs with the bodies just in case.
Oh, like in this case, second autopsy or something. Okay.
So when the second autopsy was done, they just found newspaper inside of him, which newspaper isn't a super common practice anymore. I believe it's cotton that they use to fill like cavities with now. But it is still used. It's not as common, but it's still used. So it's not. It wasn't weird that there was newspaper in there, but it was weird that his organs were missing.
Uncommon, but not unheard of.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah.
So the funeral home, when they first got his body, from the coroner the first time, the funeral home signed saying they got the organs, they got his clothes, they got his body, like everything was signed and good for. And the funeral home was doing like the preparation of his body for free for the family because they just felt so terrible. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those things where it's like they just like signed and didn't actually read what they were getting.
Got it.
Or it was covered up. Like they actually knew they didn't have the organs, or the funeral home lost the organs. Like something.
Or somebody took them. Or...
Yeah. The funeral home was cleared. Like the police did an investigation, but can we really trust it? Saying that the funeral home like had was not reliable.
No wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they said that they had his organs and everything that they were wearing, but he didn't. So nothing can be retested. None of his organs can be retested, like nothing. So the ME went ahead with the secondary autopsy, but he found bruising around his neck caused by blunt force trauma. So because he found that, the ME released his new paperwork with his cause of death being, quote, blunt force trauma, right neck, involving right mandible and soft tissue, including the area of the carotid body, consistent with inflicting injury. Note, unexplained, apparent, non-accidental blunt force trauma. Further investigation is indicated to determine the etiology of injuries, which means like the source of injuries.
Okay.
So basically he's saying he died from trauma to his like right neck and carotid artery.
Interesting.
Area.
So like somebody hit him in that area. Mm-hmm. I just say, isn't it crazy though how does the first medical examiner not note that at all?
So I feel like
it doesn't have to be the cause of death, but it can at least say like, hey, there's bruising on the neck. That seems like it might be from blunt force trauma, because it might have been a whole different case at that point. Yeah.
And he didn't, and it could have just been a cover up. It could have been that he just didn't know, because there are a lot of medical examiners out there that just don't necessarily have the proper training, because there's some counties, don't quote me on this or like come back to hunt me down.
Okay.
There's some counties where you get elected into being like the local coroner.
Okay, got it.
So you don't necessarily have to have
medical
like forensic training.
Oh, got it.
You just get elected.
Why would I want that job?
Oh, well, I wanted to be a coroner for a while, and once I found that out, I was like,
no, sorry, like why? Like, why would I want to be elected into that position? Because obviously, like if you're elected, it means you didn't get the right training. And if you're seeking out that position, it's like, oh, I want to know everything, so I'm going to get this training.
It's interesting.
But it'd be like me moving to a small county and be like, yeah, I just want to be the county coroner.
Yep.
And they just trust me.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
It is, and I do believe you have to have like like you can't just like have a bachelor's in mathematics.
Gotcha.
You have to have like some medical school, but you don't have to have like forensic.
Did you even go to college? I went to HVAC school. Okay, so
I'm a electrician.
Yeah, so I know what
we love our electricians.
And the HVAC people, especially in the summer.
Yeah. So. Oh my God, those poor HVAC people. Okay. Anyways, so according to Kendrick's family, Kendrick and another kid had gotten in the fight earlier in that year. And the family believes that it was this boy killed him, or like beat him up and rolled him up in a mat with his brother. So the kid that he got in a fight with and the kid's brother.
Got it.
The family was convinced that the connections to the family and the law enforcement kept them out of the suspect. So remember, the two of the girls that found him were superintendent's daughters, and then the kids that the family believes, beat him up and it was a joke, like gone far too wrong. Their dad or one of their family members, like their immediate family members, is an FBI agent. So they think that like the school's just covering it all up and making it all hush hush and whatnot. But we learned that one of the brothers is seen on the footage in another part of the school at the same time where Kendrick would have been going into the mat.
Mm-hmm.
And the brother of the kid had an alibi because he had a wrestling tournament that day. So he went on Twitter and tweeted like, I couldn't have done it. I was at a tournament the 9th, 10th, and the 11th. Come to find out, the tournament was the 10th, 11th, and 12th. So everybody was like, you're lying. You did it. Blah, blah, blah. But the bus picked up the students at 12:30 to go to this other school for the tournament. So he wasn't there.
Okay. And he's accounted for, I'm assuming, by his coach and other kids. Okay.
And he was at the tournament. Like, there's no denying that.
Gotcha.
And the tournament was far enough away to where they had to bus the kids.
And the family still feels, though, that these kids had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. But they both have alibis. Like, that's solid alibis.
I know.
Like, I'm like, how can I can't be in two places at once.
So the buses left at 12:30, an hour before Kendrick would have entered the gym. And nobody can find the link to the kids.
Right.
There was a part of the footage where you can see the boy, like the brothers, like walking up and down the halls of the school. Mm-hmm. But like, that doesn't really prove anything.
They go there.
Yeah. So in 2016, the case was closed, like it was reopened and the case was closed with death as accidental. The Department of Justice even said there was no evidence that proved if federal criminal charges were owed, as there was not enough credible evidence to prove beyond a shadow of doubt that there was any foul play, which we've just discussed. Like, there are too many, like, well, what about that? Like,
too many coincidences, too many weird things. Yeah.
Too many like weird things that can be explained on both sides that you're like, I don't know.
It just seems out of place, especially the shoe thing. Very weird. Because like you said, it's like, could it have been coincidental? Could he have held it? Sure. But it's
have gravity eventually taken over and pulled the shoe down?
Right. But I'm like, why would he pick up the shoe? Like, why wouldn't you drop it? As soon as I know I can't get out, I'm dropping that to try and
also, if he's
pull my, I need all my limbs.
He wasn't by himself in the gym. That's the other part of this. He wasn't by himself. Yeah. There were people in the gym.
People in the gym. Well, I mean,
so was he too embarrassed to like yell out and say something? And
also, too, those mats are pretty thick, though. I mean, how far can your voice actually travel?
That's a good point.
When you're in those mats like that, because they're pretty thick mats. Like, the roll itself is pretty thick. Like
cheer mats are pretty thick
especially if you're playing basketball. I mean, you have the bounce of the ball. You're gonna have the squeaking. You're gonna have the kids talking, calling out plays. That's my only thing. I'd be like, how far can your voice actually travel?
So that's another point that a lot of people bring up. Is like, if he was in trouble, why wouldn't he scream out? Somebody would have heard him, and then it's like, oh, that's a good point. But then counterpoint. Those mats are thick. Like, unless you do actual testing of like putting a body in there,
putting somebody
in there and yelling and having a basketball game going at the same time, you don't really know.
Yeah.
So he could.
And there ain't nobody volunteering for that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm not going in there.
No, somebody just died of that. You want me to do that?
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
So in 2016, it was closed again. Later in 2016, the group, The Anonymous. Have you ever heard of them?
Are they like a cyber group?
Yeah, they're like a cyber group that like goes after organizations.
They're the ones that wear like the Guy Fawkes mask, right?
They wear the V for Vendetta mask.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, Anonymous. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I like copying this quote from Crime Junkie. So thank you, Crime Junkie. They're a group of people that coined the term hacktivists. They're a group of anonymous people who hack into all sorts of things and create havoc for the good of the public, usually against big corporations. So they released a 10-minute video and posted it online about this, saying like, no, something needs to be done. They said it was like a clear act of racism, like because in this little town in Georgia, there's like racism was still very prevalent in 2013, which I think back to 2013 and And
it runs through my mind when you're talking about this, the police like not taking the proper time. It's sad to say, and you hate to think it of people, but you're like, it's a young black man. Like,
right. You would hate to think that
they care?
Another kid did this.
Like if this was one of the superintendent's girls that's found, I guarantee you every angle's being looked at.
Well, and that's what the anonymous people said. They said like if it was another white kid, they would have roped off the scene. They would have done extra tests, So that's what their video is basically about. It's like, there was like clear racism handling it. And yeah, if you look back, like, yeah, if it was a white kid, 100% they would have done a little bit more testing or maybe like been a little bit more careful. And that's really sad to think about. So after this video was released, the family requested a third autopsy of the body. And that autopsy came back as, I put non-accidental, but I'm pretty sure it was, they said accidental. Non-accidental as the cause of death. And it reads, quote, blunt force trauma to his right neck and right thorax, which is the body cavity between the neck and the abdomen. So like right here-ish.
Yeah.
And the case is closed again because they just don't have anything.
Right.
And it's so frustrating because there's nothing more you can do. And I want to see more.
Right.
Oh, so in November 2018, somebody went to the Johnson family with an affidavit of somebody who confessed to killing Kendrick with a 45-pound weight, striking him in the neck. They brought that to the police, and nobody really did anything about it. No news about it. Nothing was like really brought to it. Like they looked at it, but it wasn't like super like.
Just like not convincing enough or something?
Yeah, so they like stored it, but they didn't do anything about it. So this year was the 10-year anniversary of Kendrick passing. And there actually was a documentary on Tubi that was released called, I think it's called Finding Kendrick Johnson. I did watch like just a clip of it, but it was like an hour and a half and I was already 2 hours into this and my back hurts, so I didn't want to watch it. But it's on Tubi if anybody wants to watch it. And then the case was officially closed again in 2022 after it was reopened in 2020 again for like the same kinds of things.
Yeah.
The Attorney General of Georgia did say like if more evidence is brought, like I will reopen. We'll continue to reopen it until we feel confident with our answer. He was like, but I can't keep it open just to keep it open. And I feel like this is one case that has just always like been weird to me. Like I could see how people can say it's just a death, but I can also see how people can say, no, he was probably murdered and then rolled up in the mat. And I don't know where to go with it. And I used to think I had an opinion. I used to think like he was definitely murdered, but after doing a little bit more of a deep dive myself, I just don't know.
You're like, I don't know which way or the other.
And it's hard to have an opinion about it because I just don't know. Right.
After all the evidence is presented, like you said, you can.
It's
weird, but there's also you're like, well, it could have been this.
There's no one thing that I'm like, that's it. He was
right.
You know, even like the shoes not having blood on him. That's a huge thing, but I can explain that.
Right. Like they said, maybe he was holding them and he didn't drop them until he was actually
completely gone.
Was gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And drops the shoes. Yeah, it's a strange story. And and again, just my opinion. The only reason I think that I don't think it's anybody murdered him is it's too perfect a crime. Like,
yeah,
to roll him up in that mat and then just have all those things go right. Because you know what I mean? Especially if it's a young kid. I mean, if you're a young kid that murders somebody, whether it's out of spite, whether it's anger, accidental, I mean, you're going to panic. You're going to be in a rush. Like, you're not going to be meticulously thinking these things out. Like, okay, let's roll him up. They'll think he crawled in. Like I said, the video cameras happen to be out of focus, which, and again, unfortunately, I think for this poor kid and this poor family is nothing seemed to go right.
Yeah.
Organs are missing.
Right.
Cops don't do their job correctly. Videos out of focus. Timestamps aren't right. Like anything that could have gone wrong went wrong with this.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's why it's so hard to do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that does put them in a terrible place. But yeah, I think you're right. It goes back to me, it's honestly the first thing I thought. Well, he's a young black kid.
Right.
So they're just like, oh, he died. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if you find, again, the classic, pretty young white blonde girl is in there. I mean, every option's being explored.
Right.
I mean, those cops are, like you said, taping
every option's being explored until they can prove beyond a shadow of doubt.
Right.
That she
went
crawled into the mat herself. Yeah.
Right. And I think the case would still be open if that was the case. But And like you said, rural Georgia, like I said, so racism is still pretty prevalent. So
Yeah. I did forget to mention one of the brothers that like the family was like, they did it, lost his full ride scholarship to college because of all of this.
Oof.
So that's terrible too. Like,
right.
yeah, he had a bad reputation with these boys, and I am not advocating for these boys in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But that sucks.
Right.
I know what it's like to have a athletic scholarship taken from you, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being the family of Kendrick Johnson and then trying to fight for this and then seeing him get his scholarship taken away too. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But that's like a moot point in all of this. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that's so great. And you know, I think it's a lot of people, most people's fear is being stuck in a place like that, like being stuck like that. I say, because you hear about stuff like even like, you know, the kid getting stuck upside down in the cave, and when you see videos of people like getting stuck and panicking, I'm like, it makes you panic.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I can't imagine, like I said, one being stuck like that, but then being upside down, unable to get out. I said, and if he was asking for help and nobody can hear him, like you're just there for hours. How do you?
Right.
And you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And like you probably just go crazy. And it's not a quick death, I would imagine.
No, I don't. I wouldn't think so at all.
I'd imagine it takes quite a bit of time.
Hours,
yeah, several hours for that to happen. I remember hearing a little bit about it, like the gym mat thing. But I didn't know that people thought that he might have possibly been murdered.
Yeah. So like one of the big theories is that the two brothers like beat him up and it went too far, and so they knew that he looked in the mats for his shoes, so they rolled him up in the mats and left him there.
Got it.
That's like the theory that the family goes by.
That's so tough though. Like I said, if those two boys have solid alibis, like
yeah,
I was like numerous people see me at this tournament an hour before.
Right, and Kendrick was seen at lunch, so lunch was before third period. So there's footage of him at lunch.
Okay.
But then there's no footage of him after lunch.
After lunch. They're assuming that's when he went in there.
Yeah, because they're saying that he had his fitness class that third period of the day.
Oh, got it. That second half.
Yeah.
You said you split up into 4, right?
Yeah, so
4 classes one day, 4 classes the other day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like 2 in the morning, lunch, 2 in the afternoon.
How long were the classes? In those cases, were they a couple hours?
I don't know. When I went to school, they were like an hour and a half each.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did the opposite. We would have, I think, 7 periods, and they would all be
I can't imagine
one day.
that.
Like, and I think classes are maybe not even an hour, like 45 minutes, an hour.
So did you do 4 classes or 8 classes one semester, 8 classes another semester?
Yeah.
Did you do all 8?
It would be the same. It'd be the
okay.
same, yeah. So you would have your, math, science, whatever it was, and you would you would do that the whole year.
So we had, like, depending on what grade you were, we had different electives. So like as a senior, you had 3 elective periods. Junior, you had 2. Sophomore, you had 2. Freshman, you had 1.
Okay.
So your elective would change per semester, but like your core classes would stay the same.
Okay, interesting.
And then, like 1 week you would go to math 3 times, and the next week you'd go to math twice. So it was like 4, 4, 4.
They just kind of switched it off. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I remember we just do everything all in one day.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it all works out in the end, right? Or you do it 45 minutes or an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They're like, it's the same amount of time either way.
Whatever.
Yeah, no, that's a sad case. Like I said, it's crazy for the family because like we always say, the worst part is not knowing.
Right.
What happened to your son.
And imagine like...
And I can imagine you believe he's murdered.
Yeah.
And how do you tell someone all the evidence points that he wasn't?
Right.
Or most of it, sorry. All of the evidence that could suggest that he was.
Can also be talked down from the other side.
Right. Can also be like, well, it could have been this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I was going to say something. I forgot. That's okay.
That's all right.
I was going to say... It's gone.
I don't know. But yeah, I just feel like, everything that could have gone wrong with this case went wrong. Like, what are the odds of the cameras being out of focus?
Right. Timestamps being wrong.
Timestamps being wrong, yeah.
An hour-ish.
Both pairs of shoes that are found on this kid who's dead, just given back. Oh, here you go. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say. if the police had collected like just a titch more of evidence, like maybe if they saved the shoes, they could have done fingerprinting on them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if they got more samples of blood, they could like go back and like try to do a familial DNA to see who it was, and then like talk to those people and be like, hey, did you see anything weird this day? Like, just like, even if they didn't do it then, we could do it now. But we can't do it now because you don't have that stuff.
Mm-hmm. The sweatshirt, like you said, you could have figured out whose it was. The blood, you could have figured out whose it was, and, you know, question them. Hey, when did it? Because obviously they could have a logical explanation.
Right. Got
why was your blood on the wall? Like, oh, like I got a bloody nose, or I got hit or something. You know what I mean? And people saw it, you know, whatever. But yeah, you're right. At least explore every avenue. But yeah, you're right. I think they saw the opportunity. It's like, oh, accidental death. We're good to go.
And then
it is, you know, just happened.
The brothers having an FBI parent, and then them knowing the superintendent, and like it all, like that part all seems kind of fishy. And then the shoes behind his legs, like tucked into the top of the mat, also seems kind of fishy to me. But like I said, like what if he kicked him off to try to like make himself more
give himself more freedom,
smaller to get down or to get back up? Yeah, you know. So it's weird.
It's a weird case. Yeah. That is interesting. Yeah, definitely sad for the family. Like I said, you won't know what happened to your son. I'm only 17. But you're right. It's weird that nobody saw anything.
Mm-hmm. Nobody saw anything.
People were in that gym. Like, because even if I'm playing the basketball game, wouldn't one person have noticed him climbing up those mats?
But maybe they just never saw him climb out.
Yeah, but it's still, you know what I mean? Like, still, like you see somebody climbing up these mats, and then they're just... Because obviously you said these kids noticed his feet, right? His socks.
Yeah, they noticed that like something was sticking out at the top of the mat, so they climbed up the steps.
So that's only another weird thing to me too. Like people saw him climb up, like nobody saw that he was gone, or nobody was like, hey, like did he come out, or nobody saw his socks? Because if I see that kid going in the direction, obviously you're going to look over there again at some point. Just I feel like you'd watch him for a little bit, because I'm like, what the hell is he doing up there? Like, what are you doing up there? Unless
it was a normal thing that they did, and he just happened to get stuck this one time because they did store their.
And I don't know how big this school is, or like you said, how often had he done it before?
Right.
Well, I wonder, did they ever question the kid that he shared the shoes with?
I didn't see anything about that.
Yeah, because that kid would definitely know.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he would have reached down there to grab them too if he needed them.
It sounded like that both of the kids may not have had gym until this next day.
Okay. But if they had stored it there before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that kid had done it before. He's like, oh, yeah, we do that all the time. Or
yeah. Well, and they said that when they did store the shoes, that the mats were normally like horizontal on the ground, so they could just reach in and grab them rather than having mats stored vertically and then having to like
all because down. I'd say, and another problem too, I'd say because you charge for lockers.
Because you charge for lockers.
You charge for lockers at a public school, which is
so silly.
Weird to me.
Yeah.
We didn't have lockers at my high school.
We only had gym lockers, and you only got a gym locker if you had a gym class, unless it was dance, because dance class didn't get lockers.
Oh, that seems kind of
It was dumb.
Yeah, we only had the gym lockers. Yeah, we didn't have lockers like in our but yeah, I can't imagine having
like in the movies when they like hit the locker with their, or you're like waiting for your boyfriend at the locker. Yeah. I dreamed about that day as a child. I just wanted to be at the lockers with my binders.
Just meet me at my locker.
Just meet me at my locker. And I never got that. No.
I remember, you see that, like, that's like the prototypical high school like, that you see growing up. Yeah. And then I remember when my mom started working at Highland, she was like, oh, we don't have lockers here. What? How am I supposed to decorate the inside of my locker with stuff I like?
I'm supposed to keep all my books in my bag?
Yeah. And they're all, no, we have 2 sets of book. And I'm like, damn, we're bougie then. I said, wow, instead of building metal lockers, they were like, let's just get 2 sets of books for the kids.
Yes.
Which, and it's crazy now looking back at it, because I'm like, there's some schools that don't even have books.
Right.
Don't have enough books for the kids, or enough updated books. And here I was, a set at home and a set in the classroom. That's what they did. They just, you didn't need them.
I remember, did you ever see Bring It On, All or Nothing with Hayden Panettiere, where she goes to, she goes from like the white school to the Crenshaw Heights, like the hood.
I feel like I haven't seen the movie itself, but I know which one you're talking about.
Because
isn't the dude that she like likes? He's like Hispanic, right?
Yeah, and they like crump in it.
Yeah,
and Brianna's in it. So
is she really?
Yeah,
oh,
she's
man.
like the judge at the end. It's so funny.
That's so funny.
So in the movie, because she went to this like prestigious, like money driven high school, and then goes to this underprivileged school.
Why did she go to Crenshaw High School?
Because her dad got transferred, so they got transferred, and she had to leave the high school, and it was like too far for her to travel.
Ain't no way some rich parent is just going to be like, you know what? It's just too far to drive. We're going to have to send you to Crenshaw to go to school there.
Yeah.
They'd be like, no, it's fine. We'll buy you another car or something.
She walks into class on the first day, and the teacher is like writing notes on the board, and the rest of the class is writing them down. And the teacher was like, all right, sit down and copy from the board. And she's like, can't you give it to me in a book or something? And the teacher's like, you think we can afford books? And she was like, oh, like looking around like, oh, I don't know. And then she's still standing, and then she goes, oh, I know. You can just email it to me.
Oh my God. Just make
She was like, we don't have enough books. What makes you think we have computers to send an email? And then she goes and sits down next to like the cheerleaders, and she's like, oh. It was so funny.
Oh my goodness. But, I'd say that's the only unbelievable
No, exactly. Like underprivileged, like maybe that's why the school had to do it, because they were an underprivileged school, and stuff. The only way they could afford the lockers.
That's a whole issue though itself.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like I said, sad that what could have gone wrong did go wrong. And you'll just never, like you said, you'll never know.
Never know.
You look at this evidence, because even if the family's telling me like, I know these kids did it, I'd be like, they're on tape. Like they're on tape with multiple witnesses not being there. Like,
and it was like, okay. So if those kids have alibis, who else do you think could have done it? And they like can't come up with anybody else.
Nobody else that they think.
So I don't know. Maybe that documentary on Tubi goes into more detail. Maybe I'll have to watch it after talking with you about this. But I like scrolled to the end of it, and the family at the end of it was still talking about the brothers.
Those two brothers.
Yeah.
So and you say you just have to find some way to cope with it, and maybe that's their way of coping with it. But like I said, maybe it goes into detail. Who knows? Maybe they're right. Yeah. Like I said, to me, it just seems, although the FBI ties is a little different, because if somebody's in the FBI, obviously you know what they're looking for in a crime scene or stuff like that. But to me, I'm like, I just have a hard time believing that
everything went perfectly.
That two high school boys committed this crime, rolled them up in this mat, and it just, he stores his shoe there, and he could have done this, he could have done that. There's no evidence. Like, they don't find the blunt force trauma at first. His organs are gone. The camera's out of foot. I'm like, either they had help or they just were the luckiest sons of bitches on the planet. Like,
serious help, or seriously, they should have bought a lotto ticket.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's tough for me. But what do you say? Crazier things have happened before.
Right.
I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen it before where the cops mess up. They don't,
Right. Cops mess up all the time.
All the time.
When I feel like they mess up not collecting the evidence correctly here, or
At
collecting
least the shoes. That blows my mind.
The shoes, they just,
because even if it's accidental death, why wouldn't you take that as evidence?
Well, if it's accidental, like, you don't need to keep it.
I guess, yeah. I don't know, yeah. I guess I wonder if that's standard procedure. Like, if it's accidental death, do you not keep any of
I wonder if that varies from state to state, too, because I don't know personally.
Right, because I just feel like kid's dead, even if they're like, we think it's accidental death. Okay, well, let's collect everything until we know for sure.
Yeah.
That just seems like it should be standard procedure. Because, I mean, if someone finds me like that, collect everything. I mean,
noted, Josh.
Right, yeah.
I'll note that for you.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, they're going to find out who did this.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Super sad story. Well, that was a good one.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm glad that we went over that one. I was going to ask your permission for the next episode if I could could present the next one. You want me to tell you what I want to do?
Sure.
So I heard a case. It's about the disappearance of Sandra Hughes.
Is that the one that's an HBO documentary right now?
I don't know. She gets lost in the Sierra. She vanishes in the Sierra Nevada mountains in 2020.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's got a little bit of like true crime, but it's also got a little bit of paranormal mixed into it as well.
I like that.
Yeah. So it's definitely really interesting. So I'll go over that and
sweet. I'm excited.
We could try that one.
I'll kick back next episode.
You can just sit back and enjoy. You don't have to. You're like, okay, hold on. Did I lose my place? Like, did I get everything right? Because I know. Obviously, you want to present these cases in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Like, I want all the full story out there. And like you said, I like that we want to highlight the victims you know. And in this case, it's you can only highlight the victim because we don't know anything else. We don't know if, you know, anybody even had anything to do with it.
Right.
But that was a good one.
Yeah.
So on a lighter note, so you know how, you know me, I love I'm not a huge, you know, serial killer fan.
Yeah.
But I do like the survivor stories. And the reason why I like them so much is because remember with what was her name? Not Mary Vincent, and then also who was the woman that fought against the Yosemite?
Joey.
I can't remember her last name. Joey? What was her name?
Her name was definitely Joey. Shoot, what was her last name?
I want to say Joey King, but that doesn't. I don't think.
Definitely not. I have the documents. I can pull it up real quick. But she didn't survive.
Right. But I enjoy those aspects because remember I told you it's crazy to think. It's crazy to me that these people are going through something so tragic, and in their minds they're talking about, or in their minds they're thinking about other people. So I found a story today just about a young girl who kind of same thing. Just she unfortunately passed away on Saturday due to
Joey Armstrong.
Hold on, let me see if I got it here. So yeah, I read a story today about a girl named Riley Faith Steep.
Okay.
Who passed away on Saturday from a 2-year battle with cancer. She had stage 4 adrenal cortical carcinoma, or ACC. Said it's very rare, very aggressive, and she survived 2 years. But she, during this time that she was in the hospital, she decided that she wanted to help other kids. And so she started her own little group called Riley's Cozy Comfy Mission, and she wanted to deliver sheets.
I love
to
that.
kids because one of the nurses gave her Moana sheets, and she just absolutely loved it. She felt so good. She was like, I want to do this for other kids around the hospital. She even received in March 22, she received the Order of the Silver Crescent, which is a award given. I did not write down the state.
That's okay.
Yeah. But it's an award given for remarkable community service. She was taking donations before. I don't know if they're taking donations now, but I'll have Charles put her Facebook link on there because the grandma had a Facebook group there. So if they do take donations, maybe you can find it there, but I was unable to find it. But I thought it was so cool. You know, just some really cool. You're stage 4 battling cancer and you're just thinking about
other people. Right.
Which to me is always crazy.
Yeah. To have the forethought instead of, because it's so easy in those situations to be like, my life's terrible. My life sucks.
Right. And I'm like, it would be easy to just focus on you.
Yeah.
Like I want to focus on getting better, do whatever I can.
Right.
So yeah, I thought it was cool. 5 years old when she was diagnosed, and she passed away Saturday at 7 years old. So,
that's so
but just shout out to her, to her family, you know, condolences. It's definitely sad. I mean, 5 years old having to go through cancer. It's another one of those moments too, where you think like, obviously people go through things and everybody's had troubles in life and stuff like that. But I'm like, having stage 4 cancer at 5 years old, you've been through something realer than I've ever been through in my entire life.
And those parents too. Her whole family.
Right. And so, she had, they had a little video, her at Christmas delivering the gifts to the kids. And
so sweet.
Yeah. Very, very nice. And so, like I said, I think it's very easy to get lost in the evil in the world and also like the selfishness for most people. I think it every day, even when you're just like driving down the road, when people cut people off, how many times are you driving down the road and somebody just cuts in front of someone and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess you don't, like, you do, you got to get somewhere.
You must be in a rush.
Right. You must be in a rush, or I guess,
something must be happening. So
or you need to get there so everybody else can just kind of fuck off, I guess. So yeah, it's always nice for me to read. I'm like, there's still some really good people out there.
Right.
So a lot of good humanity. So yeah, just wanted to
thanks for sharing.
Give her a little shout out, and I said just hope the family's doing as best as they can. Yeah. And that's the way we should. I wanted to shout that out before the end here.
Let's close on that. I love that.
Yeah. And we'll do our usual close as well though.
Remember to support your local drag. And I'm Amber.
I'm Josh.
And we will see you next time.
On Speaking Spatter, episode 4.
4?
It'll be episode 4, yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
I think the camera went off.
When did it turn off?
I don't know. I just looked at it.
Oh my God.
Charles!
Oh man, we have to know where it cut off. Oh, that is